the DC villain who hated DC Comics. There are villains in DC who hate Superman, Batman, Justice League, the Green Lantern Corps, the multiverse, humanity, free will, or life itself. But Superboy-Prime is different. He is one of the only DC villains whose anger is aimed at the story itself. Superboy-Prime does not begin as a demon, a warlord, a cosmic tyrant, or a criminal genius. He begins as Clark Kent of Earth Prime, a world that is basically meant to resemble our own. On Earth Prime, Superman is not a real person flying over Metropolis. Batman is not actually stalking Gotham at night. And Wonder Woman is not an Amazon ambassador. They are comic book characters, which means Superboy-Prime grew up as a fan. He read about Superman the same way readers did. He believed in the ideal version of heroism that DC Comics represented. He looked at these characters as symbols of courage, morality, sacrifice, and hope. Then, in one of the most meta twists in DC history, he discovered that he was not just a fan of Superman. He was a version of Superman. And that should have been the greatest fantasy imaginable. A normal kid who loved DC Comics suddenly finds out he belongs inside that mythology. But instead of becoming the perfect hero, Superboy-Prime becomes something much darker. A fan who cannot accept that the universe he loved changed without his permission. This is the story of what happens when nostalgia gets Kryptonian strength. Who is Superboy-Prime? Before Superboy-Prime became one of DC's most infamous continuity-breaking villains, he was Clark Kent from Earth Prime. Earth Prime is not just another alternate Earth with a different Superman costume or a slightly different Justice League. Earth Prime was designed to feel closer to the real world. In this universe, DC superheroes were not flying around as public figures. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and the rest of the DC universe were comic book characters. So for most of his life, Clark Kent of Earth Prime thought he was just a normal kid with an unfortunate name. His origin is told in DC Comics Presents number 87, published in November 1985 in a story called Year of the Comet. The issue was written by Elliot S. Maggin with art by Kurt Swan and Al Williamson. That creative team matters because this was not some random villain debut. It was a crisis-era Superman story built around the idea of a boy from a comic-reading Earth discovering that the myth he grew up with was secretly connected to him. On Earth Prime, baby Kal-El is sent away from Krypton before the planet's destruction, just like the main Superman. But instead of landing in Smallville and becoming the Clark Kent we know, he arrives in a more realistic world and is adopted by Jerry and Naomi Kent. Naomi wants to name him Clark, after her maiden name. Jerry is hesitant because in their world, Clark Kent is already known as the secret identity of Superman from comic books. Eventually, they still named him Clark. He is a Kryptonian named Clark Kent who grows up in a world where Clark Kent already means Superman as fiction. For around 15 years, he lives as an ordinary teenager. He has no real reason to believe he is special. He has parents, school, a normal life, and a girlfriend named Lori Lemon. Then Halley's Comet passes near Earth, and his Kryptonian powers finally awaken. Around the same time, the Earth-1 Superman is transported to Earth Prime, and Clark meets the hero he believed was only a comic book character. Imagine growing up reading Superman, then suddenly the actual Superman appears in front of you, and you discover you are also Superman. An actual Kryptonian with powers, a cape, and a place in the multiverse. From Superman fan to crisis hero. The easiest mistake with Superboy-Prime is judging him only by what he becomes later. Because before the tantrums, killings, reality punches, and before he becomes one of DC's most hated multiversal threats, he actually does what a Superman is supposed to do. He helps save reality. That heroic stage happens during Crisis on Infinite Earths, the 12-issue event published from 1985 to 1986, written by Marv Wolfman with art by George Perez. This was not just another crossover. It was the event DC used to collapse its complicated multiverse into a streamlined continuity. Earths were erased, timelines were folded together, and the entire versions of characters disappeared. The Anti-Monitor was not just trying to conquer one planet or defeat one team. He was destroying universes. That is the scale of the story Superboy-Prime enters. For Clark Kent of Earth Prime, the situation is almost impossible to process. He comes from a world where superheroes are supposed to be fiction. Then suddenly, he is standing beside the real Superman, fighting in a cosmic war with the survival of existence at stake. At this point, Superboy-Prime is not cynical. He is young, overwhelmed, and still emotionally close to the reader he was created to represent. During the crisis, Earth Prime is destroyed by the Anti-Monitor. A lot of alternate Supermen lose Krypton, but Superboy-Prime loses Earth. He loses the world where his parents lived. He loses the normal life he had before his powers awakened. And he loses Lori Lemon, the girl connected to his teenage life before the crisis. And still, he fights. That is why his later fall is more tragic than if he had started as a villain. Superboy-Prime's first major role is not built around cruelty. It is built around sacrifice. He joins the battle against the Anti-Monitor and helps the surviving heroes during one of DC's biggest events. When the crisis ends, he is one of the few remaining figures who remembers something was lost. Afterward, he enters the Paradise Dimension with Earth 2 Superman, Earth 2 Lois Lane, and Alexander Luthor Jr. of Earth 3. But that ending also removes him from the living DC universe. It begins with a kid who wanted to be part of the story, helped save the story, and then realized the story had no place left for him. The Paradise Dimension, where the anger starts. A happy ending can become a punishment if nothing is allowed to move forward. That is the strange problem with Superboy-Prime after Crisis on Infinite Earths. He survives the destruction of Earth Prime. But what DC gives him after the crisis is not a normal life. It is a pocket reality outside the main universe, usually called the Paradise Dimension. The people trapped there with him are important. Kal-El, the Superman of Earth 2, Lois Lane of Earth 2, and Alexander Luthor Jr. of Earth 3. Each one is a survivor of a dead continuity. Earth 2 was the home of DC's Golden Age heroes, the older Superman and Lois, who represented an earlier era of the company's history. Earth 3 was the reversed world where heroic Alexander Luthor came from a planet dominated by villains like the Crime Syndicate. And Earth Prime was Clark's world, the one closest to ours, where DC heroes had existed as comic books. The Paradise Dimension becomes a waiting room for deleted worlds. He is placed with older survivors and cosmic refugees, outside time, outside Earth, outside the universe he helped save. For Kal-El and Lois, the Pocket Dimension can at least resemble retirement. They are older and already had a life together. They represent a completed era. But Prime is different. He is still young. He is basically a teenager with Superman-level power, trapped in a memorial for destroyed continuities. The Paradise Dimension looks peaceful, but peace is not the same as healing. There is no real future there. No new friends. No normal world. No way to return to Earth Prime. And because the main DC universe continues without him, he is forced into the worst possible role for someone like him. Observer. That is where resentment begins to form. From outside reality, Prime can see the post-crisis DC universe developing in ways that feel wrong to him. Heroes fail, heroes die, and heroes become more morally complicated. The world becomes darker than the clean, heroic fantasy he grew up reading, and because he comes from Earth Prime, his reaction is not just a character reacting to events. It is almost like a reader looking at modern comics and saying, "This is not what DC is supposed to be." He believes the old world should not have been erased for this, and the longer he sits outside the story, the more that belief hardens. Alexander Luthor Jr. also matters here, because he becomes the person who can direct that resentment. Alexander is brilliant, patient, and deeply connected to the mechanics of the multiverse. Prime has the power. Alexander has the plan. That combination is dangerous because Prime's pain needs a target, and Alexander eventually gives him one. Why he believed modern DC was corrupted. Superboy. Prime's hatred does not make sense if we treat him like a normal villain. Prime's anger comes from something more specific. He believes the DC universe became the wrong version of itself. That belief starts in the Paradise dimension. From there, Prime is not just remembering what he lost. He is watching the world that replaced it. And what he sees is not the bright, clean, idealized heroism he grew up reading on Earth Prime. He sees a universe full of death, compromise, trauma, betrayal, and heroes who no longer look as perfect as they did from the outside. That is the key to understanding him. To him, Superman was supposed to mean hope. Batman was supposed to mean justice. The Justice League was supposed to mean the best people in existence standing together. So when he watches the post-crisis DC universe become darker and more complicated, he does not process that as natural storytelling evolution. He processes it as corruption. By the time Infinite Crisis happens in 2005 to 2006, DC had already gone through years of heavier, darker, more morally complicated stories. For many readers, that made the universe richer. For Prime, it made it feel broken. That is why he becomes such a sharp meta-character. He is not just angry that his world is gone. He is angry that the replacement world does not deserve to survive. Missing the past is human, but he crosses the line when he decides that his memory of what DC should be is more valid than the reality everyone else is living in. He wants correction. He believes the universe should be edited back into something what he thinks Superman stories are supposed to feel like. Infinite Crisis, the fan becomes the villain. By the time Infinite Crisis begins, Superboy-Prime is no longer just angry from a distance. He is ready to act. The event was published from 2005 to 2006, written by Jeff Johns, with art mainly by Phil Jimenez, George Perez, Ivan Rice, and Jerry Ordway. It was designed as a sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths, but instead of simply being about the destruction of alternate worlds, this crisis is about judgment. The survivors of the first Crisis return, look at the post-Crisis DC universe, and decide it is not good enough. That is where Prime becomes dangerous. Alexander Luthor Jr. of Earth 3 has the plan. He wants to recreate the multiverse, search through different Earths, and build what he believes will be a better, purer world. His machine uses people connected to lost universes as tuning forks. This includes heroes and villains who carry traces of the old multiverse. It is a continuity machine, built to separate and recombine reality itself. And Superboy-Prime is the muscle behind that plan. After he enters the main DC universe again, his behavior collapses fast. One of the clearest examples happens when he confronts Connor Kent, the modern Superboy. Prime sees Connor as an insult. To him, Connor is not the real Superboy. He is a clone, a replacement, and proof that the current DC universe has given his role to someone else. That jealousy turns into violence. Connor activates his Titans homing signal, and several teams arrive to help, including the Teen Titans, the Doom Patrol, and the Justice Society of America. This should be the kind of heroic team-up that stops one unstable Kryptonian. Instead, it becomes one of the most brutal scenes in the event. Superboy-Prime kills Panther, Baby Wildebeest, and Bushido, and he maims Risk by tearing off his arm. The Flashes eventually force him into the Speed Force, with Wally West, Jay Garrick, and Bart Allen involved in stopping him. But even that does not end the crisis. Prime later returns wearing armor based on the Anti-Monitor's design, powered by yellow sunlight, and heads into the larger final battle. The scale keeps escalating. At the Battle of Metropolis, heroes and villains collide in one of the largest fights of the event, and Prime cuts through both sides. Then, he tries something even more insane. He flies toward Oa, planning to destroy it and trigger another Big Bang, hoping to rebuild the universe into something closer to his original Earth Prime reality. On the way, he kills 32 Green Lanterns before Superman of Earth 1 and Superman of Earth 2 finally stop him by dragging him through Krypton's red sun and into Mogo. Prime no longer wants to be part of DC Comics. He wants to overwrite it, and the tragedy is that he still thinks this is heroism. In his mind, he is not destroying the universe. He is removing the broken version and trying to force reality back into something cleaner. The reality punch, when anger becomes a retcon. The most infamous thing Superboy-Prime ever did was not killing a hero, wearing anti-monitor armor, or fighting multiple Supermen. It was punching reality. In DC continuity, it became one of the most memorable explanations for why certain impossible changes happened after Crisis on Infinite Earths. Superboy-Prime was not simply strong enough to hit people harder than almost anyone else. In the Paradise Dimension, his rage was strong enough to damage the barrier between his prison and the main DC universe. And those punches created consequences. While trapped outside reality, Prime repeatedly struck the walls of the dimension. He was not calmly testing the structure. He was furious. And because this is Superboy-Prime, a Kryptonian level being trapped in a reality-adjacent space, those punches did not behave like normal physical force. They caused ripples through continuity. The biggest example tied to this is Jason Todd. Jason, the second Robin, had been killed by Joker in A Death in the Family, published across Batman number 426 to 429 from 1988 to 1989. His death became one of the defining traumas in Batman's modern history. For years, Jason being dead mattered. It shaped Bruce's guilt, it shaped the tone of the Bat family, and it became one of the clearest examples of Batman failing someone he loved. Then Jason came back. In Batman Annual number 25, published in 2006, DC explains that Jason's return was connected to Superboy-Prime's reality punches. The idea was that Prime's strikes caused a distortion in history that restored Jason to life. But it was not clean. Jason did not wake up in a hospital surrounded by friends. He woke up in his coffin, buried underground, mentally damaged, and forced to claw his way out of his own grave. Prime did not intentionally save Jason Todd. He did not choose mercy. He did not decide Batman deserved another chance with his dead son. Jason's resurrection was collateral damage from Prime attacking reality. One character's tantrum broke history badly enough that a dead Robin came back wrong. Prime is powerful enough that his emotional breakdown becomes editorial disruption. But Superboy-Prime can make the comic itself feel unsafe. Superboy versus Superboy, Prime kills Connor Kent. The fight between Superboy-Prime and Connor Kent is not just another superhero brawl. It is one of the clearest symbolic clashes in Infinite Crisis. Because both characters are called Superboy, but they represent completely different ideas. Connor Kent, also known as Con-El, comes from the era after the death of Superman. He was created as a clone, originally introduced during the reign of the Superman period in the early 1990s. His origin is messy by design. Later, continuity reveals him as a hybrid clone with DNA connected to both Superman and Lex Luthor, which makes his identity even more complicated. But that is exactly why Connor matters. He was not born with a clean destiny. He had to build one. Connor starts as a loud, cocky, leather jacket-wearing replacement Superboy, but over time, especially through Young Justice and Teen Titans, he becomes more than a clone trying to imitate Superman. He earns friendships and forms a bond with Tim Drake, Bart Allen, Cassie Sandsmark, and the younger generation of heroes. But Prime sees him very differently. To Superboy-Prime, Connor is not proof that a flawed origin can still create a real hero. Connor is proof that the DC Universe replaced him. Prime believes he is the real Superboy, the one who came from a genuine Krypton. So when he looks at Connor, he sees someone living the role he thinks should belong to him. Prime confronts Connor and tells him, in effect, that there only needs to be one Superboy. The final clash between the two Superboys comes later, around Alexander Luthor Jr.'s Multiverse Tower. That tower is central to the plan to recreate and separate Earths, using survivors and multiversal remnants like components in a cosmic machine. Connor understands that the tower has to be stopped. Prime is still defending the dream of restoring what he thinks reality should be. So Connor does the heroic thing. He grabs Superboy-Prime and drives both of them into the tower. The impact destroys the machine and helps stop Alexander Luthor's plan, but Connor is mortally wounded. Prime survives. Connor does not. The clone dies like Superman, and the real Superboy becomes the monster, imprisoned by the Green Lantern Corps. After Infinite Crisis, Superboy-Prime does not end up in an ordinary prison. Prime is so dangerous by the end of the event that the Green Lantern Corps imprison him on Oa, the homeworld of the Guardians of the Universe and the central headquarters of one of DC's most powerful cosmic police forces. That is the level of threat he has become. At the end of Infinite Crisis, Prime is stopped only after two Supermen fight him, Kal-El of the main DC Earth and Kal-El of Earth 2. The Green Lantern Corps tries to slow him down with a massive wall of willpower, but Prime still kills 32 Green Lanterns. That sequence is important because it explains why the Corps treats him like a cosmic prisoner instead of just another supervillain. His anger moves from personal resentment to attempted cosmic reconstruction. So when the Green Lanterns contain him, they are not just locking up a Kryptonian-level teenager. They are containing someone who has already tried to reboot reality by force. The prison itself is extreme. After Infinite Crisis, Prime is held under Red Sun conditions, with Green Lanterns guarding him around the clock. Some accounts describe him imprisoned inside a Red Sun Eater. A normal yellow sun empowers Kryptonians, but red sunlight weakens them. So his prison is built around suppressing the same biology that made him almost unstoppable. And even then, the image we get of him is not peaceful. Prime carves the Superman S symbol into his own chest. He still believes he deserves the Superman identity, but the symbol is no longer connected to service, humility, or protection. It has become obsession. He is not wearing the S anymore. He is branding himself with it. And that is why this prison situation is so important for understanding him. Imprisonment does not make Prime reflect. Instead, it concentrates his resentment. He sits in a cosmic prison, watched by Green Lanterns, still convinced that he is the wronged party. His imprisonment on Oa is not an ending. It is pressure building. By this point, Prime has gone from Earth Prime fan to crisis survivor to multiversal attacker to one of the most heavily guarded prisoners in the cosmos. They cannot stop him from believing the story still owes him a better ending. Sinestro Corps War. Prime becomes a cosmic villain. The Green Lantern Corps, locking Superboy-Prime on Oa, should have been the end of his story. Instead, it becomes the setup for his next transformation. During the Sinestro Corps War, published mainly across Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps from 2007 to 2008, Prime is released from his prison when the Sinestro Corps attacks Oa. This matters because the Sinestro Corps is not just another villain team. It is an entire army built around fear, created as the dark counterpart to the Green Lantern Corps. If the Green Lanterns weaponize willpower, Sinestro's army weaponizes terror. Prime fits into that war almost too perfectly. He joins because the Sinestro Corps can give him what he wants: escape, power, and another chance to punish the universe that he believes stole everything from him. By this stage, he is no longer being treated as only a fallen Superboy. He becomes one of the Anti-Monitor's heralds, standing beside some of the most dangerous figures in the war. The Sinestro Corps does not just include ordinary ring-bearers. Its major forces include Sinestro, the Anti-Monitor, Cyborg Superman, Parallax, and Superboy-Prime. In that company, Prime is not a side villain. He is one of the largest weapons on the board, and the armor is one of the biggest visual changes. Prime wears a suit modeled after the Anti-Monitor's armor, designed to feed his body yellow solar energy and maintain his Kryptonian power levels. That detail is crucial because one of Prime's major weaknesses is red sun radiation. Unlike the main Superman, who can store solar energy more effectively, Prime is often written as needing constant yellow sunlight to stay powered. The armor solves that problem by turning him into a walking solar battery. But symbolically, the armor does something even darker. It connects him visually to the same kind of crisis-level destruction that erased his world in the first place. The Anti-Monitor was the force behind Crisis on Infinite Earths, the event that destroyed Earth Prime. During this period, he starts calling himself Superman Prime. It is him saying he is not a failed version, not an alternate, not a leftover. But his actions make that claim impossible. In Tales of the Sinestro Corps, Superman Prime, published in 2007, the story flashes back through his life while he battles heroes on Earth. He fights Superman, Power Girl, Supergirl, and others, and the issue leans heavily into his delusion that he has been wronged by everyone around him. He still sees himself as the victim, even after everything he did during Infinite Crisis. Then comes one of his most brutal Green Lantern fights, his battle with Sodom Yat, the Daxamite chosen as Ion. Sodom Yat is already incredibly powerful because Daxamites have Superman-like abilities under a yellow sun, and as Ion, he is carrying one of the greatest power sources connected to the Green Lantern mythos. But Prime still manages to defeat him, partly by exposing him to lead, the classic Daxamite weakness. That detail shows that Prime is not just strong. He can be viciously tactical when he wants to be. Then, after the Anti-Monitor is weakened, Prime turns on him too. Prime had aligned with the Sinestro Corps, stood among Fear's greatest champions, and worn armor connected to the Anti-Monitor, but deep down, he still hates the Anti-Monitor for destroying Earth Prime. And when the moment comes, he attacks him. Legion of Three Worlds, Prime against the future. The 31st century should have been the worst possible place for Superboy-Prime to land. By the time of Final Crisis, Legion of Three Worlds, published from 2008 to 2009, Prime is already a known disaster. He joined the Sinestro Corps War and disappeared into the time stream after his clash with Monarch. Then, the Time Trapper finds him and pulls him into the future. That setup matters because the Legion of Superheroes is not just another team. The Legion represents the future of Superman's legacy. Their entire mythology is built around the idea that Superman's heroism survives centuries after his own time. In different continuities, young heroes from the 30th or 31st century are inspired by Superman's example. They build a team around cooperation, optimism, and a future where different planets and species can stand together. So when Superboy-Prime attacks the Legion, he is not only attacking a team, he is attacking the future that Superman inspired. Prime's first major stop is the Superman Museum in Smallville. That location is brutal for his ego. Instead of being celebrated as the one true Superboy, he discovers that history remembers him as a footnote, a cautionary piece of Superman lore rather than a great hero. The museum does not validate his version of events. It tells him what the DC universe thinks he became. Prime responds exactly how you would expect by this point. He throws a tantrum, wrecks the museum, and kills security guards and police officers. Then, he learns about the Legion of Supervillains. Instead of trying to prove the museum wrong by acting like a hero, he does the opposite. He frees Lightning Lord, Saturn Queen, and Cosmic King from Takron Galtos, the prison planet. These are not random criminals. They are the evil counterparts to the Legion's founding archetypes: lightning, telepathy, and cosmic power twisted toward villainy. Prime also burns a giant Superman shield into Takron Galtos, trying to turn the symbol from hope into terror. The story escalates when he builds a larger legion of supervillains and recruits threats like Mordru. He also kills Rond Vidar, the last Green Lantern, which is another key detail because it connects Prime's hatred to multiple corners of DC history. Rond Vidar is not just any future hero. He is tied to the Green Lantern legacy and the Legion's long continuity. Prime destroying him is another case of the past attacking the future. Then, the story turns into one of DC's most continuity-heavy battles. Superman works with Brainiac 5 and multiple versions of the Legion to fight Prime's army. The title itself, Legion of Three Worlds, comes from the presence of three Legion continuities being pulled together, and then the two heroes he probably least wants to see return. Bart Allen comes back from the Speed Force as Kid Flash. Connor Kent returns after Starman uses a Kryptonian restoration chamber to revive him in the 31st century. That means two of the biggest wounds connected to Prime's previous crimes are thrown directly back into his face. He hates retcons and resurrections when they do not serve him. But DC continuity keeps undoing his victories. The Time Trapper reveal makes the whole thing even stranger. During the story, the Time Trapper is revealed as a future version of Superboy-Prime, an anomaly who survives until the end of time. Connor wounds Prime in the present, and that same wound appears on the Time Trapper, proving the connection between them. Prime then attacks his own future self, creating a paradox that sends him back to Earth Prime. Adventure Comics and Blackest Night, Prime reads his own story. After everything Superboy-Prime does across Infinite Crisis, Sinestro Corps War, and Legion of Three Worlds, DC sends him somewhere that should feel impossible for a character like him. Back home. Physically returned to Earth Prime, the world where superheroes are supposed to be fictional, and DC Comics are something people buy, read, argue about, and wait for every month. In the 2009 Adventure Comics tie-in to Blackest Night, Superboy-Prime is no longer standing in front of multiverse towers or fighting armies in the 31st century. He is living on Earth Prime with his parents, still being monitored by future Brainiac 5 and obsessively following the DC universe through comic books. DC's own official Superboy-Prime primer describes this phase as him becoming dedicated to tracking the universe he once inhabited through comics, even searching online for spoilers for issues that had not been released yet. That detail is hilarious, but also kind of perfect, because this is where Superboy-Prime stops being only a villain inside DC Comics and becomes a character reacting to DC Comics as a product. He is not just angry at Superman anymore. He is angry at the writers, the solicits, the message boards, the continuity, the fan response, and the way he himself is being portrayed. In Adventure Comics Volume 2, Number 4, Prime reads the issue and panics when he reaches the end. He forces his parents to take him to a comic shop because he wants the next issue, Adventure Comics Number 5, even though issue 4 has just come out. The clerk tells him the obvious. The next issue is not available yet, so Prime does the most Earth Prime thing possible. He goes online looking for spoilers. He is the DC villain who hated DC Comics because he literally reads DC Comics and hates what they are doing to him. The Blackest Night connection makes it even stranger. Black Lantern. Alexander Luthor arrives and targets Prime by attacking his emotional spectrum. He brings up Prime's past victims, his guilt, his rage, and his fear. Instead of just fighting him physically, the story turns his entire publication history into ammunition, and unlike earlier chapters where Prime insists he is the hero, here he has moments of awareness. Lex Luthor does not go online to check whether the next issue makes him look bad. Darkseid does not panic at comic solicitations. Joker might break the fourth wall in certain stories, but Superboy-Prime's relationship with the page is different. He is trapped between being reader, character, critic, and casualty. Why Superboy-Prime is more than just an angry fan joke. It is easy to reduce Superboy-Prime to one image: the screaming fanboy with Superman powers. And to be fair, DC gives readers plenty of reasons to see him that way. At his worst, he feels like the nightmare version of a comic book reader who cannot accept that a fictional universe changed. But stopping there makes the character too simple. Because Superboy-Prime is not only a parody of toxic fandom, he is also one of DC's clearest examples of grief turning into entitlement. In Crisis on Infinite Earths, Earth Prime is erased. His parents, his normal life, his future, his girlfriend Lori Lemon, and the world that made him who he was are all taken away. After the crisis, he is not given a new life on the main DC Earth. So when he starts watching the post-crisis DC universe from outside reality, his anger is not random. And the problem is what he does with that grief. He does not simply mourn Earth Prime, he decides that the surviving DC universe is unworthy. Prime crosses the line when he decides his pain gives him authority over everyone else's reality. When he sees Connor Kent, he does not see a young hero who earned his place through friendships, sacrifice, and growth. He sees a replacement Superboy. That is entitlement with Kryptonian strength. And that is why he works as more than a joke. And beneath that is a recognizable emotional pattern. Someone suffers a real loss, refuses to process it honestly, and turns that loss into permission to hurt people. He wants to be Superman, but he cannot accept the central moral demand of being Superman. Other people matter even when your pain is real, and that is the flaw that ruins him. Death Metal: The Secret Origin and His Redemption. Superboy-Prime's redemption does not begin with everyone forgiving him. By the time he returns in Dark Knights, Death Metal: The Secret Origin #1, published in 2020, Prime's history is already too bloody to clean up with one heroic gesture. He turned the Superman symbol into something angry, entitled, and violent. So the issue does not ask readers to pretend he was secretly innocent. Instead, it asks a better question. What happens if the boy who loved Superman finally remembers why he loved him? Prime is not the person trying to force the universe to obey him. He is one of the last people standing against someone even worse. That is a major reversal. In earlier stories, Prime's anger was always pointed outward. The universe was wrong. The heroes were fake. The writers ruined him. The modern DC universe was corrupted. Connor Kent stole his place. The future remembered him incorrectly, and the story owed him something. In The Secret Origin, the issue finally turns the mirror back toward him. He is forced to look at what he became. Not the fantasy version where he is the true Superman. Not the self-pitying version where every terrible thing he did was someone else's fault. But the actual version, a frightened, furious, broken Clark Kent who used his pain as permission to hurt people. That is the emotional center of the one-shot. Prime's redemption is not built on a legal argument. The story works because it admits that his pain was real and his actions were still wrong. That distinction is important. He also made choices. He chose violence, He chose resentment. He chose to see other heroes as replacements instead of people. He chose to believe that his version of DC mattered more than everyone else's lives. That is why redemption has to come through choice too. When Prime stands against the darkest night, he is not fighting because the universe promised to restore his perfect childhood. He fights because for once it is the right thing to do. That is a very Superman idea, and it is exactly the idea Prime had forgotten. The strongest part of this redemption is that it brings him back to the original emotional source of the character. He loved the idea of Superman before he had powers. His tragedy was not that he never understood heroism. His tragedy was that he understood it once, lost everything, and let bitterness replace it. So when he reconnects with Superman's values, the story is not giving him a random last-minute personality change. It is pulling him back toward the person he was before the Paradise Dimension, before Infinite Crisis, before the armor, before the reality punches, before the internet rants, and the blood. It is not a perfect reset. That is why his ending in Death Metal feels surprisingly gentle. After his stand against the darkest night, Prime is returned to a restored Earth Prime-like home and given a chance to start over. For years, Superboy-Prime demanded that the story change for him. In the Secret Origin, he finally changes for the story. Not because it makes him innocent, but because it proves the Superman ideal was never completely gone. It was buried under grief, rage, entitlement, and years of cosmic violence. Why he hated DC Comics. So why did Superboy-Prime hate DC Comics? He hated DC Comics because he was created as the one person inside DC continuity who knew what DC was supposed to look like from the outside. That is the central trick of the character. Clark Kent of Earth Prime was not just another alternate Superman. He knew the symbol before he ever wore it. That made his relationship with the universe completely different from almost every other character. For most heroes, the DC universe is home. For Superboy-Prime, it was first a fantasy. Then it became a battlefield. Then it became a prison, and became something he wanted to correct. His first major appearance in DC Comics Presents number 87 gives him the perfect fan fiction dream. A normal teenage Clark Kent discovers he is secretly Kryptonian, meets the real Superman, and enters the mythology he grew up reading. But Crisis on Infinite Earths immediately turns that dream into loss. The Paradise Dimension makes it worse. And that is where his love turns poisonous. By Infinite Crisis, Prime does not simply want his home back. He wants judgment. He believes the surviving DC universe is not worthy of replacing Earth Prime. Alexander Luthor Jr. gives him a machine and a mission, but Prime brings the emotional fuel, resentment, grief, and the belief that he knows what the universe should be better than the people living in it. That belief produces bodies. Loving a fictional universe is not the problem. Believing you own it is. Prime's most famous power, the reality punch, is basically that idea turned into an action scene. He is so angry at being trapped outside the story that he literally hits reality until continuity changes. That is why his final redemption in Dark Knights, Death Metal, the Secret Origin matters. It does not work because it erases his crimes. It works because it returns him to the original question: why did he love Superman in the first place? For years, Prime's answer was selfish. He loved Superman because he wanted the universe to make him special. He wanted the story to validate him. But Superman was never about that. Prime's failure is that he loved the symbol but rejected the responsibility. So the final verdict is this: Superboy-Prime hated DC Comics because DC changed, and he could not accept change without turning it into betrayal. He loved one version of the universe so intensely that every new version felt like an insult. Every darker story felt like corruption. Every replacement hero felt like theft. And every retcon felt like proof that the universe was broken. But the real broken thing was not DC continuity. It was Clark Kent of Earth Prime. When the story disappointed him, he did not protect what was left. He tried to force everything back into the version he remembered. So what do you think? Is Superboy-Prime one of DC's smartest meta-villains, or did the angry fanboy angle go too far? Did his redemption in Dark Knight's death metal, the secret origin, feel earned, or should DC have left him as a cautionary villain? And which part of his history deserves a full breakdown next? Infinite Crisis, the reality punches, Connor Kent's death, the Sinestro Corps War, Legion of Three Worlds, or his bizarre Blackest Night comic shop story? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy deep dives into DC villains, broken heroes, strange comic history, and the stories behind the stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and stick around for the next one.